Hi all, today I'm going to do a short video on the way that I'm filling in the engravings on these slate clocks. If any of you have been following my channel, you'll see that in the past I've done it with gold paint, but for the previous clock, which I've yet to upload the video on, I used a gilding paste, and I wanted to show you that method too. So for this process, what I've got is it was an old credit card which I've just cut a piece off of. This is going to be my painting edge. I use a bit of 1200 paper to get a really good clean edge, not a frayed, because they've got like a laminate on them anyway, and cleaned it all up. So I made that so it's nice and smooth. Second thing is cheap set of watchmakers screwdrivers. And what I've done with these is, like this larger one, where you've got the screwdriver edge, if you like, the flat one. What I've done, I've taken the shape, and where it's normally like that, I've rounded off the edges there. So now I've got that shape. And that is so that I can get into dimples, and I'll show you that technique. And then with this other little one, all I did was, where you've got again that shape, I've just ground it off, ground it off completely, and now I'm left with literally that shape. And these edges will be what I will use to get into the actual engravings. Now I've only done 2 of these, and I think I should have done it with some more sets, because there'll be different radiuses, and you'll see that when I'm doing an example in a moment. But that's basically it. And final thing is, the most important thing is this stuff, Peebo, Geddy, I don't know what it's called anyway. It's this stuff, nice, like creamy gold waxy stuff. And for what we're going to need it for, there's a lot in there, and this will go very far. So my first job is to clean out all the engravings, and you can see where I'm scraping it out, lots of crap is coming out of there. Not only the dye that the wax where I've waxed the clock and polished it, but even older stuff than that, because I can see like brown stuff is coming out, just grime from over the years. So we want to clean these lines out really well, in order to have 2 things: a line deep enough to add the gilding wax to, and also a clean surface for the wax to adhere to. In fact, in some instances what I'm seeing here is the gilding underneath. So I'm scraping off grime and wax and whatnot, and revealing the original gilding. What I do is slowly do this, because it's easy to slip, and you saw me slip a second ago. Luckily I didn't scratch it. Cleaning out all your channels. And this will make for a better job in the end. And that now I can just use to give a little spin in all the little dimples in order to sort of excavate them of their grime and grease. In fact, some of those are a little bit little. I might have to re-grind another screwdriver for those, but you get the idea. The smaller the dimple, the smaller the screwdriver you want, so you can create that arc shape narrower and narrower. But yeah, that's basically the idea. So that's all nice and clean now, nothing more coming out of that. Yeah. Alright, so the next stage will be for me to add the gilding in, and I'll show you how I do that. I literally just grab a bit out of the pot and force it in. I don't mind about the excess going all over the place with this stuff, because I know I'm going to clean it off anyway, and this is easier to clean off than paint, so it's also easier to apply, because with paint I'm actually concentrating on filling in the little lines, whereas with this I'm just sort of scraping over it. It's only tiny amounts. I should say a pot like this could last you forever really. I'll let that dry overnight and then clean off the excess. So that's where I'll leave it for now. Meanwhile, I'm going to carry on cleaning up the rest of the etchings and apply the gilding wax to the rest of the clock, the case rather, and I'll be back now tomorrow to show you how I clean it all off. Been overnight now, and I've allowed the wax, or the gilding wax, to dry off, and I wanted to show you, and I've just sort of started doing it a little bit before I videoed or began my videoing, how I clean up the gilding. Now I'm using a tip from my friend Spencer. As I say, initially what I was doing was using a methylated spirits with a fine cloth and sort of going over it with a pad, but in one of his videos he used wire wool, and this is the 40 wire wool, the finest one, and literally just going over it like that to take off all the excess, or any excess, and it does a great job. Yeah, this is a better way of doing it than how I was doing it. And it's not affecting the surface of the clock either. So we're left now with nothing but crisp gold engravings. This will really make the clock stand out. You can see like particularly messy one. It's a fair amount of damage around here. I don't know why that would be. It's a side where you open and close the glass front door, but I don't know why you get sort of these deep scratches in there. I tried hard not to get gilding in there, but I think it has gone into little places, which I'll use a fine tool, a small tool, just to scrape them out like that. I'll go over that a bit more carefully in a while. As I say, by far, so the best way to re-gild the clocks using this gilding wax. Now I'll not go back to the painting method which I showed in a previous video, and this is much more easy and the lines come out so much more crisp. You'll have to forgive me for the way the video is changing, the way it looks every so often. I'm trying out a new way of videoing now using my DSLR, whatever, you know, using my Canon camera to video, because the quality is got to be a lot better than my mobile phone which I've been using, but you kind of run into all sorts of other problems with lighting and where it's coming from. I was getting lights bouncing off the case from the spotlights of the ceiling, bouncing off the case, so now I've switched off the spotlights from the ceiling and I'm using a light on its own pointed up towards the ceiling, so then the ceiling becomes a reflector and floods an even amount of light all around the clock itself. So I'm experimenting with that while I'm experimenting with this. As I say, I did do another clock using the gilding wax. I just never got round to finishing off the editing on that one. A lot of people would tell you, and it's like filming is one thing, but the editing is a whole new ball game. It's what takes up all the time. here it is in its finished form. Nice sharp lines on the engravings. As I say, this gilding paste is the best thing ever so far, and using Spencer's tip on using a bit of wire wool to clean off the excess, brilliant. So I feel like I've kind of moved up a level with these slate clocks once again. Now all that's left for me to do is finish this top piece off, which I've just kind of abandoned. Stupid cushion out there in the background. Let me get rid of that. There you go. A bit less confusing. Yeah, so I've just got to polish this whole thing up and then do all the little engravings. And they're lovely, the engravings on that bit, so that's really going to make it pop out. And the case is done. The mechanism is all been serviced, it runs lovely. I've just got to polish up the bezel of this clock and the back door, and ready to put it all back together. So another one that's been saved from the scrap heap. No thanks to you, parcel force and mailboxes.